Alright, let's get this thing started. I went ahead and set it up so that we can see the version of this that is running on an actual Android device here. That hopefully you can see. I move with 2 fingers, like so. Leaves behind stuff, which it should not. Hi, Crepper. Welcome to the stream. Good time zone indeed. It would be evening for me. How you doing? Studying at morning. Like it's morning and you're studying. Cool, cool. Always glad to be a little background music for somebody. So the idea here is going to be obviously to prevent that from happening. Do it with 2 fingers. Should not draw. Voices indeed music to my ears. Yep, glad to hear it. So that is going to be in 1 or 2 places. Either we'll have to do something in the camera, because that does panning, or we'll have to do something in the brush tool. And so the deal is, basically, when we start doing what am I doing? So I'm working on my pixel art editor, and there's this issue where if you use 2 fingers to pan, you'll see it leaves behind right here a bit of drawing, which it should only do if you use 1 finger, like so. So it should just pan and not leave behind that pixel. So I think the way to deal with this is going to be to basically consider it like a... Most drawing apps don't even fix that. They should. It's pretty serious if that were in an app. I would just rage quit and use a different app. So the only other thing you can do is you can, and we did, add like a pan tool. So you can do that and then move without doing it. But you don't want to have to constantly be switching to that in order to not draw while you're panning around. So yeah. So basically we're going to turn this into like a bit of a gesture-based system. So we need to figure out, let me paint. We need to figure out when we first touch the screen, right? That is going to be in some position. And then we're going to touch the screen again somewhere else. Because of the way Godot works, and I assume somewhat this is just the way that it works, in the underlying hardware at some level. One of these touches will always happen before the other. And so because of that, you can't just say, oh, if these happen at the same time, then okay, then we won't do it. We won't draw. So you can't do that. What you can do is you can say, okay, after you touch with one finger, let's wait a little bit and see if we get another touch. And if we do, then we're going to not draw. So the issue with that is that you're going to run into a bit of a lag. So now let's say I draw with one finger. Now it's going to take a second before it actually starts drawing. So you'll like miss a pixel or two here at the beginning, right? So you don't want that either. So what you have to do is you have to say, okay, if after we've waited a little bit, we do get this second touch here, then we're going to basically undo a tiny bit of what we've done so far. Whatever we've started drawing in that time, we cancel it, basically. So, to do that, we are going to, have some sort of timer that's going to, do a little bit of a wait here to see if we get a second touch. There's that. And then if we do, then we need to clear the current line, which should be pretty simple to do. We'll literally just delete it, which is something we know how to do. That is an advantage of doing things the way that I'm doing them, as opposed to drawing directly into some kind of sprite or whatever. Let's see. So if that's how we're doing it, we need to figure out first, how do we tell if we have a second touch, right? And I think a good way to figure that out is going to be to go back and look at what we did for the camera real quick. Because we do have a way to do that. Let's see, where would that be? Here we go. Yada yada yada. All this stuff in there. Okay. We have this touches dictionary. Right. So that's fine. And we are setting that to, you know, some position. All right, fine. And we have the index of the event. So I believe that index, yeah, is in the case of multi-drag event, right? So that is what we need to look for. Because when we have more than one index, and more than likely they'll be like 0 and 1 or whatever, but when we have more than one, it's going to mean that we're panning around with 2 fingers. Peak music is playing. So true. Could it be possible to implement a setting that changes the padding time? Yes. That is very possible. Okay. So we should have an index on touch and also on drag. And when, you know, the touch is released, we also get a release with that particular index. So what we need to do is go back to our drawing here. Let's see. You know, we might be able to do this in a way that's a little bit... how do I put it? More robust than simply putting it directly in the brush, but that will be done by moving it out of here and into the surrounding context. For now, it should be acceptable to do it in here. It'll make it easier to do the thing that I said where you have to delete the line, basically. Okay. So we need something to tell us about the touches that we've done. So that's going to be something like this. And then if event is pressed, we will put something in there. Otherwise, we need to remove it. And then we have to do the timer. So for this, let's see. We'll have how do we do this? Here's a good way. there was a way, this get tree.create timer. The problem, I believe, is that get tree requires a node. And we are running this from something that is not a node. There are other ways we could make this work that are not too difficult, though. I really would like to see the documentation for getTree. Here, node.getTree. I wonder if you can call this directly on node or if it has to be an instance. I assume it needs to be an instance that's actually, like, in the tree or something. But maybe not. Yeah. Make an instance. Hey, Timmy. Welcome. Let's see. Would be fairly appropriate to create this timer on either the layer writer, because this would be a child of that, or on the sprite scene, because that is the overarching scene. Let's go ahead and do it on the layer writer. Going to be a number of seconds, and then on timeout. Okay. Good. So for this, hey Voilin, welcome. It's going. So what we're doing is trying to make it so that when you pan with 2 fingers, it does not draw. Currently, you can see it draws even when you're panning. So we're making a timer here. For some short amount of time, let's say a 1/10 of a second. And if in that 1/10 of a second your second finger touches the screen, then we will know that it is a pan gesture and not just trying to draw. not sure what's up with the autocomplete not working here. I believe it should work just fine. But we're going to connect the timeout. And really, what we need is for this to set a variable. So we'll make something for that. What would that be? Second touch should let's say within time. There we go. And we will set that to false by default, I think. Oh no, this isn't going to work. First touch just happened. Right. So then we say first touch just happened equals true here. I can't remember if there are anonymous functions. Apparently there are. Okay. So the body of the function will be to set first touch just happened to false. Good. Okay, so we just touched the screen with one finger. And then we're going to come back and touch it again with another finger. And we have to determine that. So it's going to be if first touch just happened, then something. Otherwise, we do this. So, if it did indeed just happen, and I think we can get rid of this, actually, because, well, maybe. We'll see. I think it needs to also check if the index is let's say greater than 0, right? Because when the index is 0, that means it's the first finger again, so maybe you double tapped, which would be something else entirely. So let's ignore that for now. And then when we do that, we are going to pretty much ignore all this. But let's go ahead and just do a print statement here. Let's see what that does. Okay. So small issue here. That print is not going to print anything. Because of the way this works. No way you got a Nokia. Yeah, it is, in fact, technically a Nokia. I think they're not even the same company anymore, but, you know, whatever. Just, it was basically the cheapest possible Android phone. So that's why I have it. It is not good. But it does the job for testing purposes. Okay, so how am I going to do this? I can't just print. That will not work. So I will... Let's see, just... go ahead and do the thing that I think I need to do anyway. So that's going to be if line is existent, we need to get its parent and remove the line. Do it for deletion, and then set it to null. That is the full rigmarole that you have to do. And then let's also move this into that else, which I believe is necessary. Okay. Let's try that. Yeah, I just got it at Walmart. This phone was like $30. Okay, so that does not work. But maybe it's mostly working, and that is just the brush tip. So what would we do if that were the case? There is a way to do that. Which is to do this. I believe we also need to reset this. The question is kind of, where do we do that? I'm not sure. We do it here, so maybe it's fine. 30. Indeed. Your exclamation marks and question marks don't tell me whether you think that's high or low, but I assume you understand that that is very low. But that's why it's a slow piece of crap, because it was only $30. Yeah, that is the lowest price for a phone I've ever heard. Yeah. Literally the cheapest option. Also, apparently, what I just did worked. Because it's not drawing now. So, yay. However, there's the unfortunate side effect of it not drawing at all. So, boo. I assume it's using like hardware that is several generations old, and also just, you know, it being Android. There's a lot of leeway there, but it is impressive. Even so, that they've managed to get the price this low on what is ultimately a very sophisticated piece of technology, if you're not looking at it from a relative perspective. So I'm guessing what is happening is that it's getting here, and then it's just doing this forever. And it's never getting back to doing this. But hypothetically, it should be doing this. Ah. But it's going to do that even for second touch. Like, it's gonna be a little weird. Potentially. But yeah, cheap phones are out there. If you don't care at all about carrier, because this was like a prepaid phone where I just didn't put any minutes on it. So if you don't care about your carrier, you don't care about how good it is, or anything, you just want a phone, cheap phones are out there. Okay, we have the exact same problem. Might as well. Unless it's like a very light game. We seem to be having some. Okay. I think we're back. Literally, I did nothing. That is, I guess, on Twitch's end. Either that or my Wi-Fi is crapping out. So that doesn't work. Let's see. Hopefully. Okay. Are we back? Pretty sure this is on Twitch's end. Because it would not let me reconnect. It said that it was like an issue connected to the server or something. And I'm not otherwise having network issues right now as far as I can tell. So, big L for Twitch today. Okay. So this not really working. Let's try that. See if that does any good. Okay. That did not help. Let's see. What else can we do? I am open to suggestions. Let's see. We take that in here. Okay, we have erase, so that's fine. Let's try that. I suppose it's possible that the timer's never really going off in the way that we want. So that would be something to check next. Okay. So that's good. So we know it was an issue with how we were checking the indices. Where are the drag events? Let's see, we have that. We don't care about that. Don't really use drag events. Okay. Yeah, that seems okay. Everything here mostly checks out. The question is, why does it not then behave as we expect? Let's set it to a quarter second. I imagine something else that could be happening here is there's just so much lag on this crappy phone that the timing just needs to be like way looser. And in fact, maybe it would be a good idea to make it be like frames or an amount of time. It's like within a frame or two, or if it's, you know, a quarter second or whatever. So it seems like we're still running into some issues. I can't really be sure that anything at all is happening. Oh, I do see something that's going to be an issue here. And that is that basically this has to run while this is going off. I don't know. We'll just try setting this to something ridiculous like 2 seconds and see what that does. So it seems to not have changed anything really. So I'm guessing we're not getting in here at all. That would be my guess. Which means, I suppose, that this is never length 0. Or at least, not for long. Oh, and of course it's not going to be length 0, because we moved the thing that sets it up here. So it's going to be length 1. And here it's going to have to be greater than 1. So let's set this back down to 0.1, because otherwise it's going to be really weird. And then let's try it again. Hopefully that should do the trick. Okay. So we're back to where we were before. It refuses to draw anything. Which is not ideal. So I guess... it must be doing this all the time, right? Which might mean that this is not going off. Possibly. Isn't there a way to set the color? I believe so. Let's try changing this to set the brush color. Let's set it to green. I mean, I don't really expect this to work at all, but I expect it to still not draw because of the way I set it up, but maybe it'll do something. Oh, there is something else that we do need to consider, which, yeah, okay. I just checked it. It doesn't draw. There's something else we need to consider, which is, I believe, sometimes it will miss the initial touch and will just give you motion. That should be rare. That is something that I think I remember running into at some point, though. Something to keep in mind. Generally speaking, though, it should catch this. Okay. Let's try... adding something that will be super obvious. Hopefully that will show up. I'm not seeing it anywhere. I'm not fully convinced that it's not being added, but it sure seems like it's not, which could mean that this is not getting called. So if that's the case, let's try doing it as a proper function. Maybe it doesn't like lambdas for some reason, which would be weird, but possible. And then this will also let us set the size. What do we do right here? We need to find that. With the later writer. Let's give it some kind of minimum size. Make it really big so that you should definitely see it. There should be no problem there. So I seem to be able to confirm that it is just not getting called. It is just not getting called whatsoever. Which would seem to indicate maybe we're always in this part. But that only partially solves it. What did I do? Just like closed the... There we go. So that timeout is never happening. I do wonder if this... Oh. Okay. I think I know. You have to get the tree and create a timer on the root. This is something important that I have forgotten. Hopefully, we should see some change here. And there we go. So, yep. Also, this is making me realize just how poorly color calibrated this phone is. Because it looks like way more bluish. Whereas it looks like the classic magenta color on my screen. Okay. What else? So that's what that issue was. So we can go back to using the little lambda here. And setting first touch just happened to false. Let's see what this does. Okay. I would say that's working. Hooray! seems pretty robust. Yeah, I'm happy with that. Okay. So, what's something else we can do quickly here? I'm thinking maybe we go ahead and try to make the camera lock correctly for the rotation. It might also just be done here. We're getting close to that time anyway. I think we might be able to, we might have already done this, and I think the thing that we came to was that it acted slightly strange. But did mostly work. Let's try turning that off and seeing if it behaves in a way that is reasonable. We will need to add some basic settings in here as well. But that should be not too bad to do. Yeah, that seems reasonable to me. You do have the issue where you can't pan or zoom using those tools. because I believe those use the mouse directly. We need to... No, it's not that. It's not that it's using the mouse directly. What is the issue then? Why would that not work? Let's see. So we get the event. We set it to be dragging. I don't think we ever set... So we set that to is pressed, okay. Fine. And then here... Interesting, okay. I see. I don't really see why it would not work. That's odd, to say the least. Hmm. And it does work here. You know, zoom is a little bit questionable, but it does work. And pan definitely works. And yet it does not on mobile. Why would that be? I think it might be something to do with relative not working for touch, perhaps? Not working correctly for touch. That is a possibility. Let's see. So here we have relative, and then if we check here, we do have relative. Possibly we ought to be using screen relative. But that's really here. Go ahead and do a raid and get out of here while I still can. So, thanks for hanging out, guys. I'll see you next time. Let's do... who are we gonna raid here? Raid BB Bite Sized, who's doing Until Dawn. Just say hi.